Well, good afternoon, good evening, DCL podcast fans. We've got a special Coffee at the Cove version for you tonight. And how are you doing tonight, Christy?
Crazed. How are you, Steve? You're
Pretty
probably
much
the
the same
same.
thing. I've been up since 3:30 this morning, my time in Nashville. Went to Seattle, came here, and Disney dropped some news today that I thought would be worth kind of pointing out to all of our listeners and followers and everything like that. I'm sure you've probably seen it on other different social media sites, but I thought we'd touch on the topic, which was kind of dropped today.
Yes.
So, well, just to kind of go back, last week, was it last week? I think it was last Friday.
It was, at the end of the week.
The end of the week, the Bahamian government kind of dropped a bombshell on the cruise lines, basically for sailings to the Bahamas beginning September 3rd until November 2021. The Bahamas will require that all passengers ages 12 and older will be fully vaccinated in order for a ship to be allowed entry into any of its cruise ports, including private islands like Disney's Castaway Cay. And right away, Royal Caribbean announced that everybody would have to be vaccinated on their ships. I'm not sure where they are as far as kids are sailing, if you know, Christy.
The same.
The same, okay. And Norwegian had already I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure if they won a lawsuit, but they got a stay from the Florida governors. I'll let you say it.
We did not agree to talk about this before we got started.
No, this is a little off topic.
There was a stay of the injunction that stopped them from asking people for vaccination records, so they can go forward for the time being to ask for vaccination records. And to be honest, I feel like everybody on NCL has to be vaccinated right now. But you guys, there's a lot of cruise lines, and I do look them up before, and a lot of countries have regulations. So I look it up before if I have a client that needs this information. I currently don't have anybody cruising Norwegian anytime in the near future. So I have not been fully following what's going on there.
That's okay. The bottom line is that they've already kind of won a stay of injunction against the Florida law of requiring or not being allowed to ask people whether they're vaccinated or not. So once the Bahamian government came out with this regulation, I think the writing was on the wall that anybody who wanted to sail out of Florida was going to have to change their plans. And because Disney Cruise Line, along with the rest of them, except for one ship on Norwegian, is flagged outside of the United States, they cannot leave Florida and just go steam around like they're doing in England and do a seacation or a staycation like that they're doing there without stopping at a foreign port. So as soon as they did this, including Castaway Cay, the private islands, that kind of tied Disney Cruise Line's hands. And Disney Cruise Line finally responded today, Christy, and I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, and let me just say one thing to what you said, because the Congress has allowed the exclusion of the foreign port stop for Alaska cruises for this season only. And so if you're cruising from Alaska or to Alaska, you can leave from Seattle and go into Alaska without making that foreign port stop. So, I mean, who knows? That could still possibly be a possibility, but I highly doubt that Congress cares enough to allow cruise lines to go to the Bahamas. And so I don't think they're going to be saying, no, you can just go out to sea and not go to the Bahamas. So I just don't see that happening. So as such, the current state of the law to comply with the Bahamian regulation, which requires guests that are 12 and up to be fully vaccinated, is for Disney Cruise Line, guests 12 and up have to be fully vaccinated in order to board their ship. So guests received and this is for cruises leaving September 3rd through November 1st, which completely complies with the Bahamian regulation. And to be fully vaccinated, you have to have received both of your vaccination shots, unless it's Johnson & Johnson, and that those shots had occurred 14 days before your cruise. So you have to have been fully vaccinated 14 days before your cruise. Then, well, I'm sort of speaking in circles, right? To be fully vaccinated, you had to have received your last vaccination shot 14 days before your cruise. So that's their definition. It is on their website. And finding it, Steve and I had like a little bit of a chat before, because I'm like, I'm staring at it. And he's like, how did you get there? So you would go to the know before you go section, and then there's like one little line that says, get more information here. Click on that information, and then it goes through the regulation to discuss the rule. Do you want me to say more about that, or?
No. So basically to once again try and summarize it, and once again, go to Disney Cruise Line's website, click on the know before you go, and more information here, and you can kind of read this for yourself. But as far as we're interpreting to and trying to interpret it, is that for cruises starting September 3rd through November 1st, anybody 12 and older will have to be vaccinated. To be fully vaccinated, guests who have both doses of Moderna or Pfizer or AstraZeneca have to have had the second shot completed 14 days. Would be considered fully vaccinated 14 days after the second dose was administered. Johnson & Johnson, it's just one dose. So once again, 14 days after receiving the one dose. If you get a cocktail, Moderna and Pfizer, then once again, it's 14 days prior. But if you only get a single dose of AstraZeneca or one of the other shots, you are not considered fully vaccinated. You must have that second dose. So I thought we'd touch on just what if somebody that between 2 and 11, then what their requirements are.
It's any age, actually. Other cruise lines aren't testing prior to 2 or 3, I think. Every cruise line literally has a different policy. So we just need to check for every single one. But Disney Cruise Line is any age. And Steve, I had that same. And so what we're saying is Disney Cruise Line right now, and then until November 1st at this time, anybody unvaccinated. So obviously you have to be vaccinated after September 3rd or be under the age of 12. So anybody, any age. And I actually looked this out, has to go and get a COVID shot. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today, guys. Anybody under the age of 12, so 11 and under, has to have a pre-cruise COVID shot that has to occur within 5 days and 24 hours before your cruise.
Not the shot, the test.
The test. I'm sorry. This has been a long day.
I know, bear with us.
Cruise COVID test between 5 days and 24 days before the cruise. And then when they get to the port, they're going to do a second PCR. So the first one's a PCR, the second one's a PCR test at the ship. So prior to boarding, the kids will do a second COVID shot or COVID test. I keep saying shot. And this is any age. So, and I was in a cruise group and somebody was saying they were getting their 18-month and they like couldn't go to CVS because their child was too little. And I was like, really? At that age, you have to, of course I didn't make this comment, but I said to myself, at this age, you have to get tested as well. When online, it says any age. And so that's what I guess I would tell our listeners. There's too many rules. There's too much talking. There's too much in the requirement realm, right? You just need to go to the website and figure out what you need to do before the cruise. And obviously your travel agent, if you booked with one, will help guide you through that process as well. But the best place to get the most up-to-date information is always going to be the website of the cruise line that you are cruising with. And so that we know in this case, infants now, if they are cruising, have to be tested as well. Infants and toddlers.
And some feedback we've gotten from people who have cruised on the first, second, and third cruises as they've gone is that test that is administered at the port can take some time. They put you in a tent. In the past, the tent has been hot. So, and it's taken anywhere from, we've heard, from 30 minutes to up to 2 hours to get your test back. So just be wary, bring some food with you. As Christy said in our prior episodes, bring drinks, bring food, and eat lunch before you go, because it may take you a while before you get on board the ship.
Yeah, because they're not even boarding the ships until later. So they've recently pushed back the boarding time for cruises that are going out starting this Friday. They were starting people arriving at the port at 11 or at 1:30, and now they're actually having people arriving at the port a couple hours earlier. So it seems that they're figuring out how to do this stuff a little bit earlier, which is fantastic. However, you're sitting there, so you can't count on lunch. You always, to me, the start of the cruise was when I got to sit down and have lunch, always. And in this case, we're just not going to be able to do that right now. So
once again, just to kind of reiterate, and Maria brings it up, basically any living soul unvaccinated needs to be tested. If you're fogging up a mirror and you're in line to get on the cruise ship, and you're not unvaccinated and you're unvaccinated, then you have to take the test. I guess just to reiterate one other thing too, is just to go to the know before you go, read it, maybe double check it a couple days before. Just keep up with it, maybe at least once a week if your cruise is a ways out. Ours is in November, but kind of keep up with what's going on, that changes.
What I will say is that Disney does email you the week of when there is an update. So I was booked last weekend. Supposed to be cruising. My son was quarantined, so he's fine, and he has actually tested again since then. It does not have COVID. However, because he was quarantined through school, we had to cancel that cruise, and they sent an email like midweek. Don't forget, you have to do this. There's a push notification that comes through your phone if you've logged into your app ever with the cruise that says, don't forget, you have to register with Safe Passage. So they are making sure that you know the information. As soon as the rules change, or even the week before, the rules are saying you have to test. So Disney is getting this information out. At least it is now. I don't know if they did before the first cruise, but they're definitely getting the information out now.
Okay. Well, we don't want to get too much deeper into the weeds and confuse anybody, but the bottom line is between September 3rd and November 1st, if you're leaving on a cruise, then if you're 12 and older, you have to be vaccinated due to the regulations brought down by the Bahamian government.
And Disney doesn't have a choice with that.
Right. We had one question is like, well, that's not enough time for a person to get vaccinated. Well, they don't really have a choice. So, and unfortunately their hands are kind of tied in this way along with everybody else's. So what are people's options, Christy, if you've got somebody that's over 12, obviously that's unvaccinated, obviously they could just not go on the cruise. But if you decide you don't want to go on the cruise, you want to cancel the cruise, what is Disney offering, Christy?
They are allowing modifications or cancellations without any Disney imposed cancellation fees by or before September 3rd. So you basically have like a week. You have until September 3rd to tell Disney what you are going to do, or the normal cancellation fees will apply. So you just need to really make sure that you don't miss that. I will say that every client that I have that has a cruise between now and November 3rd, November 1st, received an email. I received an email, which I forwarded to everybody this morning, and to say, these are the rules. Make sure that you can comply. Please reach out with questions. I obviously too I can't dig in or force people to be vaccinated or not be vaccinated. Fortunately, most of my clients just come out and say, oh yes, we're all vaccinated, so that I don't have to worry on their behalf. But these are the rules by Disney, and there's no choice. So you can get your money back. You can move it to a new cruise. If you move it to a new cruise, you have to pay the prevailing rates, regardless of what you paid. So something to keep in mind as well.
In other words, if it costs more, then you're going to have to pay more to move it to that cruise.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else that we're missing on this or that we should cover,
No,
Christy?
To that end, there's probably going to be a lot more space available on potentially on cruises in October and the beginning of November, because I will say that some people were choosing to cruise Disney because there wasn't a vaccination requirement in place. And so, if somebody wants to get on a ship, there's probably space for them. And a Florida resident rate just dropped today. So I don't think it works for September, but there were some VGTs, which are those very restricted. I don't think the V stands for very, but I'm going to go with it does stand for very restricted. I think it's a veranda restricted rate. But anyway, so you can book a completely non-refundable cruise. Like you cannot make a change of anything if you wanted. Disney has just released those, and travel agents are able to book them.
Katie says she's ready for those rates. I think you're ready to get back on board. Liz says she's glad that Blake is fine. And I mean, I have time off in September that's suddenly become available.
She does indeed. Let me know, Liz.
So, the other thing that I would just caution people is this regulation Did I say that right? Regulation, not requirement
regulation.
from the Bahamian government. It goes to November 1st, but there's no guarantee that it will end November 1st, and that it may not be, or it may be extended beyond that. So if that is going to affect you, you're unvaccinated, you're 12 and older, you've got to cruise after November 1st, and you want to make that choice to vaccinate now, you might want to do that sooner than later, just in case it extends past November 1st. I'm not telling anybody to get vaccinated. That's your choice. But that's kind of, but don't be surprised.
It's a possibility.
Don't be surprised if they extend it. We don't know if they will. Just don't be surprised.
Right.
Whew. Yeah. That was a lot. I'm not really good at this legal stuff.
Depressing too.
It's not depressing. It's just different. It's
the
just,
whole topic though just changes like day after day and minute after minute. And to be a travel agent right now is a little deflating. I'm just going to say it's just a lot. So
bring a good joke, a good dad joke. Christy always likes a good dad joke. And if you need some help booking your vacation, how can they get a hold of you, Christy?
You can find me all over the internet at Pack Your Pixie Dust. So find me, let's talk. If you have a travel agent, please use them. We're certainly not trying to take away anybody else's business right now. And if you have a travel agent, hug them right now. They need a hug. Well, you can't hug us. I don't like coronavirus. I'm so over it.
And Olaf can't hug you either because he likes warm hugs.
Warm hugs. I love Olaf. Yes. See, just talk about Olaf. That makes me happy.
There you go. I see that smile coming back to your face already. All right. So as we get out of here, a couple of the resources, make sure you go to Disney Cruise Line's website. Make sure you download their app if you've got a cruise coming up so they can push notifications that way to you. Make sure you've got that turned on so that they can notify you.
And I never really have notifications on. I don't know how Disney and Disney Cruise Line notifies me through my phone. So they've apparently gone beyond my notification realm. But also one thing we didn't really talk about is you do need to look at the rules if you are cruising in the future. The Safe Passage by Inspire website, whatever, there's a link all over Disney's website and on the email you'll get from Disney Cruise Line. There is a storm brewing outside my house right now. Sorry about that. If you can hear it, but you have to upload your vaccination records through Safe Passage. So, and it's going to show you both that and the Disney Cruise Line website shows you as under consideration. What is it? Pending forever. And eventually it'll work itself out. Everybody just says, bring hard copies to the ship with you of all of your forms so that if you have to re-show something, you can show it when you go to check in and you arrive at your port arrival time.
Perfect. All right. Well, as we get out of here, anything else, Christy, that you can think of?
No.
So just stay on it, guys. It's tough. Change is tough.
Change is tough.
Change is tough. But, we've seen a lot of really good comments from people coming back from the cruise. I know that Katie and Lake had a great time on their cruise. We've got a cruise. We've got another Disney Magic episode coming out tonight. And Claire and her family had a wonderful time on the Disney Magic. John had a great time on the Disney Magic as well over there. So if you're comfortable and wanting to cruise, just stay on top of those regulations and all the changes, and you'll be aboard that ship at the real Cove instead of the fake Cove with Christy and I.
Yeah, and it looks like for a little while, those ships are not sailing at capacity. So the idea of just having a little more space is, a lot of fun.
Right. Okay. Well, Katie says, hang in there. And Jason says, thanks for the information. Definitely, guys. One other resource, always follow Scott Sanders, the Disney Cruise Line blog. He's always got up to the date information on his website as well. Probably some of the best news recaps. But we will have our August Disney Cruise Line news recap next Tuesday. We'll get a date up on our Facebook page and everything else. So come join us. I think it's going to be 8:00 Eastern, 5:00 Pacific. And oh my gosh, there was so much news this past August. And we always have a fun time kind of talking about that. So join us next Tuesday and we'll take a look back on the month that was or still is. We still got a week to go.
The crazy month. Oh my God. Can I just say one more thing? I wrote it on my piece of paper. We forgot to talk about it when we were recording. The Bahamian regulation mentions medical exemptions. If you medically could not get a vaccination, we don't know yet what the cruise lines are doing with that. It's probably going to be, if it's either going to be a blanket no, like Walt Disney World was doing with masks when the parks first opened up, saying if you can't wear a mask, then I'm so sorry, you can't come right now. We don't know what they're going to do though. Will they allow medical exemptions? I'm not sure. So I think it's not been long enough. I have reached out to some other travel agents to see if they've heard anything yet, but I think it's just not been long enough to know yet. So if you do have a medical waiver, you're going to have to look into that more if Disney Cruise Line was something you were going to be considering for somebody over the age of 12.
Definitely. Anything else, Christy?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this tonight. I know it's been a crazy day for you, for me, and probably crazier for everybody out there that's listened to this tonight. So thank you guys so much for all your support. We'll try to keep bringing the news to you as soon as we can when something news like this breaks. But all the best to you and your families. I hope you guys are all on the ships here soon. And we look forward to sailing sometime with you soon in the future. So we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Good night, everybody.
Bye.